Many people think working in the fields, being a farm worker, is just labor. They are professionals at what they do. They do work in different crops, in different areas. They know exactly what to do at every level. And that is not just manual work, it's not just a job, it's a profession that they should be very proud of. I want every consumer to understand that. And I want everybody who is now talking about immigrants as if we are creating trouble, that with these immigrants, we're not going to have food on our tables.
Welcome to Chino y Chicano. I'm Enrique Serna. Well, recently I spent time at Washington State University to celebrate National Farm Workers Awareness Week. WSU's nationally recognized College Assistance Migrant Program, also known as CAMP, sponsored activities that included a keynote speech by Teresa Romero, the president of the United Farm Workers Union. Romero became the UFW's president in 2018, the first woman to lead the organization and the first immigrant woman in the United States to head a national labor union. In 2024, President Biden awarded her the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I had a chance to talk with Teresa Romero about how she came to lead the United Farm Workers Union, her message to the daughters and sons of farm workers, plus the challenges of leading the UFW in a time of fear of mass deportations. Here now is our conversation. Teresa Romero, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down and have a conversation with me. I really appreciate it. Very apropos that we're here at the Murrow School of Communication here at WSU, and behind us, Edward R. Murrow is looking over us. He was the guy that did the documentary about farm workers back in 1960, Harvest of Shame. So, like I said, very apropos that we're here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, your first time to WSU, and this is, as we're talking, National Farm Workers Awareness Week, and you've had a chance to meet some of the students, and you're going to be doing more of that as we talk today. Tell me, what is it that you want to get across to them as you speak to them, particularly in these times?
You know, to me, these kids have worked in the fields. They have parents that probably still work in the fields. And what I want them to understand is that many people think working in the fields, being a farm worker, is just labor. They are professionals at what they do. They do work in different crops, in different areas, and they know exactly what to do at every level. And I want them to understand that it's not just manual work, it's not just a job, it's a profession that they should be very proud of. But they also want to do more. You know, that's why they're here. That's what they're here at the university. And they want to understand where they can make a difference. And they're trying to find a niche. And my conversations with them has been, do it the other way around. Figure out what it is that you're passionate about, and then find the organizations that do the kind of work that you do. Don't go and find organizations that do good work just because they do good work. And I'm very impressed with the young men and women that I have met just so far this morning. They're engaged. They want to go far. They're the leaders of the future leaders of our country, and I can tell you that without a doubt.
Well, as someone that grew up working in the fields with my parents, I can tell you that I have this huge appreciation. I didn't really enjoy it, which I'm sure many of us can say that wasn't the most fun thing to do. But what I got out of it was this, an appreciation for hard work, and appreciation for my parents coming here as immigrants and doing the hard work that then gave me the opportunity. And I think that's what people tend to miss.
That they do, but not the people that I met here.
Right.
They've done it.
Yeah.
They came with their parents, or they saw their parents come here. They worked in the fields. They have learned that this is not easy work. Right. And I want to make sure that I want every consumer to understand that, and I want everybody who is now talking about immigrants as if we are creating trouble, that with these immigrants, we're not going to have food on our tables.
Yeah. And when I say that I don't want people to miss that. I'm talking to the white majority out there because they're the ones that need to understand this is not, I mean, it's hard work, but don't look down on these people because they are the ones that are, feeding you each day. But the other thing is that it's an art to do that stuff. I mean, to pick apples, to pick cherries, to tie hops, to hoe beets, or whatever you're doing. It's an art.
It is physically demanding. And we need to remember, in California, for example, we have areas that the temperatures get to 100, between 115 to 125. And the workers continue to do the work. And they don't complain. It is physical. And we should not only not look down on them, we should look up to them because they are really doing such an important work. And we need to understand that without the farm workers, agricultural industry would disappear in this country.
Yeah. Again, back to the students in talking to them, what do you get out of it? How does it help you in the work that you do?
When I started working for the UFW, one of the things that my predecessor did is I started visiting workers in the fields. And one of the things that I learned is that I'm not going to be their voice. I want to learn from them, but they're going to be their own voice. When we are trying to pass legislation, I don't go to Washington, D.C. by myself to speak. We bring farm workers and their families to speak. So I'm doing the same thing with these students. I want to understand from their perspective, students who work in the fields, students who have parents that might be undocumented, students who are helping families here and in their country. I want to understand what are their challenges and figure out what can we do to help. It is when parents work in the fields, and you said it, you worked in the fields too, it is not just the parents, it's a family affair. It's a family effort. And they are trying and working very hard to get out of working in the fields. And from what I saw here, they're doing an amazing job. But I want to hear from them. I don't want to know, I don't want to assume what the challenges are. I want to know what it is important to them. I want to know what is important to their parents and understand the challenges that they're facing and the different circumstances.
You met with students this morning. You had a breakfast with them, and I understand that was pretty long and enjoyable. But tell me, what did they tell you? What did they want to know from you, or what did you want to know
there
from
are
them?
different circumstances. A young woman says, my parents were deported, and it's going to be almost 10 years, and I want to know what I can do to bring them back. So I'm able to give them ideas, ask questions, share things like make sure that they collect all the documents that they had or they were given when that happened, and put them in contact with the people that can help them. I have another young woman who is doing a study on farm workers, and she wants to know how she can reach out to farm workers and understand the challenges and the specific issues that she's researching, and how she can communicate with them, and they can trust her to be able to give answers. So I am trying to help her in how to communicate with some farm workers, knowing that we are behind it. A young man who wants to have a different profession, and I said, you know what, there's a union that might be able to help you out with the apprenticeship program. So those are the things that I can do, and I will be willing to do anything that I can to help them. I am so impressed with these young men and women, so impressed that they're here not just to study, but they want to move forward and be leaders that would do something good for the community. And learning that from such young people, it's very encouraging and heartwarming.
Is the challenge right now, and in these times, where there's so much anti-immigrant, anti-DEI, woke is now a four-letter word.
Exactly.
Although I think those people that made it a four-letter word don't even understand what woke is. And I could help them out if they'd like. But is the challenge now to keep the morale up among the young students today because of the fear that's out there?
That is a very big challenge because they know that even if they're documented, that the children are citizens or are documented, they have family members, other siblings, parents who are undocumented. And I have met with many, many workers and their families, and the fear of even taking their kids to school is there. And I think that is what this administration has been wanting to do: create fear, create distrust, and you know, when we're afraid, they win and we lose. When we don't trust each other, they win and we lose. When we don't work together, they win and we lose. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They are deporting people, no question about it. But in what I think is really they're doing is trying to create the fear to keep everybody quiet and not doing anything. I don't think that is working, because we have seen a lot of demonstrations with young people, but that is the fear. We have members who were deported.
Yeah. How is the UFW handling the situation now with this flooding the zone of executive orders by the Trump administration and the constant kind of raising of the fear?
You know, the UFW and the farm worker movement, we continue to do Know Your Rights meetings and trainings with the workers. And we're very specific and very try to emulate what could happen if they're stopped. And unfortunately, when the reality happens, they get so scared that they many times forget about what they were told. But what we're doing right now is we are filing several lawsuits. One of them, we're working together with ACLU to for the deportations that happened of our members that we know, that within 24 hours they were out of the country. There was no due process. They were threatened that if they didn't sign the deportation, the voluntary deportation, they were going to die. I mean, to that extent. So we're filing lawsuits. With the War Act that he wants to enact again, one of the things that he wants to do is have a registry of people that are undocumented. And, you know, what does that remind you of? You know, that's what we did with the Japanese community. Right. So we are filing a lawsuit against that. I don't think what we're trying to do right now is make sure that we stop it and hopefully get judges and courts that are going to say, yes, this is unconstitutional, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. As we speak, it is late March. Here in Washington State, you know, agriculture is very important, particularly in central and eastern Washington. What kind of impact are you going to see, or do you think people will see, if with this going on and in farm workers in being able to do the harvest, not only here in the state of Washington, but across the country?
Across the country. It is a misconception that and people are saying farm workers are not going to work because they're afraid. They might, if there's a raid in their communities, they may not go to work for a day, but they can't stay home. They have a family to support. So they go every day and they come home every day, and that's all they do. What they're doing right now is having the child care where they usually, their kids go, pick him up from home to take him to school. Pick him up from school to take him to child care and bring him home. That is inhumane. However, it is something that we as a community need to be a part of it and need to say no. And in California, what we're doing is we're contacting attorneys that they can be on call when there is a raid. They can go there and say and ask for the workers, what is your
show us a warrant.
Show us a warrant.
And there's a difference between an ICE warrant versus a judicial warrant.
Exactly. So
right.
We need to continue engaging our communities. We need to continue being the voice, and we're not going to be able to get rid of the fear, but we are going to be able. Let me tell you something. We have a bill that we introduced in his first administration that would have legalized farm workers that are domestic, the ones that come with the H-2A visa, their spouses, and their children are under 21 years old. We negotiated with growers, members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, and we passed it twice during his administration with over 30 Republicans supporting it. But we could not get 10 Republicans in the Senate to do it. So we are introducing it again, not because we're thinking it is going to go anywhere, but because or that he would sign it. But what we're trying to do here is say if somebody introduces something that is going to harm farm workers, that is going to harm our communities, we need to say no. There's a bill here that we negotiated between the union, between growers, between Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't get any better than that. And that's right now what we can hope for is delay drastic decisions, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to protect everybody. Yeah. They are going to go and knock on doors. People are going to open the door, and they're going to follow the direction because that's what we've been taught, and even if they don't have a warrant.
All of this that's going on, did it surprise you?
It does surprise me. I had more faith in our country, in our Constitution, in our government, and having one person that is doing all this harm to people who do nothing but contribute to our economy. Let me tell you something. Let me give you an example. 2 years ago, we invited all 100 senators to work in the fields one day. 2 of them accepted only.
U.S. senators?
U.S. senators. And it was Alex Padilla from California and Cory Booker from New Jersey. And I sat down with them and said, this is not going to be a photo op. You are going to work alongside farm workers. Alex Padilla is working next to a worker that is harvesting radishes, who you're supposed to get a bunch of 10 and put a rubber band around it. Sounds simple. As Alex Padilla is struggling to do that, the worker that is training him and working with him, if Alex Padilla would do one bunch, the worker would do 15. And Alex Padilla says, my God, you're so good. How long have you been doing this? The worker says, 50 years. And he was shocked. He says, how old are you? And the worker says, 70 years old. And Alex Padilla said, why do you keep working? Why don't you retire? This is very demanding and difficult work. And the worker said, I'm undocumented. I've been paying into Social Security, but I will never be able to collect a penny. And that is the reality of our communities that are being demonized as immigrants in any level, but especially farm workers. And we have the ability to change that. But we have an administration right now that it's not going to do that. But those 2 senators work for 6.5 hours side by side with farm workers on their knees in the middle of the summer and have a taste of what it was like to do this important work.
Yeah. And understanding that they pay taxes, they contribute, they do so much, and are not able to get Social Security or whatever. But they have to do it to
survive.
Right.
To survive.
Right,
He
right.
says, if I stop working, I don't eat.
Do you think that it's going to take, I guess, a kind of a crisis situation where there aren't enough people in the fields to do the work? I mean, I know that people are going to be there because, as you said, they need to for their own situation. But the likelihood that crops could rot because there's not enough, I mean, let's face it, Americans aren't going to do it.
They're not going to do it. I can guarantee you that. Yeah. Let me tell you another story. In 2011, we had one worker that says, they're always saying that we're taking their jobs. If they want it, come and get them.
Yeah.
So we did a campaign on that also. And the workers, all we said is, you need to be a U.S. citizen or you need to be a legal resident. And they would call us and ask, well, but I live in Oklahoma. Who's going to pay my ticket to go to California? You are. And how long is the job? The season is 5-6 months. And then what's going to happen? Then you need to go to another company, work a different season or another state. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but to give you an idea, within a month, we probably had 30 people apply. We were looking to fill 800,000 jobs. Whoa. 30 people applied. Within the first week, half of them were gone. Within 3 weeks, all of them were gone. So that showed us that there is not enough. And I'm not saying that they are the people are lazy. No, it is that people don't understand really how hard it is. And when they do it for the first time, not only the physical work, but many abuses that sometimes they face day in and day out from the employers, it is something that they just were not willing to handle.
And when you're a migrant worker, that term
Migrant.
means that you're migrating from
Yes.
community, state to state, and it's
Yes.
on you to go find the job.
And it affects the children because the children are in school
Right.
making friends and they have to move. It affects the whole family.
Yeah.
And this is a sacrifice that instead of punishing them, we should be rewarding them and thanking them for the work that they do.
So I want to come back to that, but again, is it going to take some type of crisis like this to, I guess, turn some type of tide in some respect?
I believe that the administration's goal is to keep people intimidated, afraid, so they stay quiet. I do believe, I have spoken with employers and with growers, and they're fighting and they don't want to lose their workforce because this is a workforce that they've had for years, that is experienced, that they know what they're doing. So I don't know that that's the case, that he really wants to deport all farm workers. I think he wants to make a big deal of deporting 100 people or whatever it is throughout the country to show his base that he is the law enforcement type
Right.
president.
And but what are the growers telling you?
Growers don't want to lose their workforce. Growers, the other option would be bringing the workers with the H-2A visa.
Right.
That we have over 1 million farm workers in this country. Probably at least half of them aren't documented. And without those workers that are willing to move from crop to crop and from migrate from state to state, we wouldn't survive. So they don't want to lose their workforce. There have been places and farms where after they hear that there is a raid, they go back to their farms and where they have gates, they close them, they don't allow them in because they understand that without this workforce, the crops are going to rot. But I still believe that it is a game in his mind to just show his base that he is a tough guy.
Let's talk about you. So, where did Teresa Romero grow up, and what was your journey like to come to America and to become a part of the United Farm Workers?
I was born in Mexico City. I grew up until the age of 12 years old in Mexico City with all my family, my grandparents, cousins. Because of work, my dad had to move to Guadalajara, and then so we all moved to Guadalajara. And I finished my education there, and La Universidad de Guadalajara. When I finished, I took a year, and I thought, I want to travel. I want to go to the United States, work, somewhere, and then make some money and travel. And that became very, very quickly became just a dream because my siblings wanted to come and join me and stay here. And with time, all of them, there's 6 of us, all of them came. My parents came. And, I started that migration, and now we're all here.
Right. Just like many Americans.
Yes,
that
like
have
many
come to this
Americans.
country. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What did you get a degree in Mexico?
Business administration.
Okay. So tell me about then how you became involved with the United Farm Workers.
Like many of us who started in the movement, we thought we were going to do it for a little short period of time. Before this, when I first came, I started working with an attorney, and they did a lot of immigration work and different things, family law, but I saw a lot of the families, and some of them were farm workers, and I would hear their stories. At that point, I never even imagined that I would end up with the UFW. I was... then after that, my husband and I started a construction management company. And for years we had that business, but in the mid-2000s when the economy was tanking, construction is one of the first things to go. So I decided to look for work and thinking that I would do it for 2-3 years and then come back, and continue my business. So Arturo was the previous president, Arturo Rodriguez,
Right.
was looking for an executive assistant. And I thought, that's perfect. 3 years, I can do it. And it took, within the first month, I started visiting workers in the fields. and talking to workers and seeing them work and seeing them in different crops. And within 3 months, I remember coming home and telling my husband, I'm not going anywhere. I was impressed by their work ethic. I was impressed by their willingness to do whatever it needed to be done to harvest the crops. And I have had an opportunity to talk to many people, including in Washington, D.C., about the importance of the work that they do, and have had the opportunity to bring them to advocate for themselves. And I have, since 2018, I have the privilege of being the president of the UFW, representing and serving the people, the farm workers and their families.
Did you work in the fields?
I did not work in the fields, no.
But you took basically that business background that you had and becoming a part of the leadership.
Actually,
working with the leadership.
Actually, because
working
of,
with the leadership.
Yes, actually, because of my education, I became the secretary treasurer of the union, and I was there for several years until Arturo decided to retire. I never thought I would ever be the president of the union. You know, when I started, I remember telling Arturo, I don't need to be the president. If I'm, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. If I am worker B number 34, and that's the best place for me to serve farm workers, I'm happy with that. The board made a decision, and I'm here.
The first woman.
The first woman. And let me tell you something. I am the only immigrant woman president of a national labor union in this country.
All right.
So hopefully we can change that soon.
Good. Why not?
Yes.
Why not? I think we could use that. So, you also received a great honor from Joe Biden, like that Medal of Freedom.
Freedom. You know, the President Biden and Vice President Harris were. I remember when they appointed Vilsack as the Secretary of Agriculture, he called me. And I had thanked him because under Obama, he's the first secretary who came to meet with farm workers. And the only question that I said of him is, when it comes to farm workers, everybody has a seat at the table in agriculture, except farm workers. And he says, I have direct instructions from the president to change that. And the president, the vice president were instrumental in us getting a law in California to change the way the farm workers voted for a union representation, to make it safer for them to vote. So they were always engaged, understanding and wanting to know the challenges. So that honor, it is, to me, it is recognizing more the work the farm workers do and the contributions that they make. But it was the honor of my life to have received that from the president.
Let's get back to the students, because they are the young people that are going to be our leaders of tomorrow, and we are dealing with this uncertain time right now. What is your hope for them?
Every time I go to a place and I have the opportunity to speak to an audience, I look around. And I remember the first time I met these students from this university, from the camp program, and it was in Chicago. Michael brought some of the students there.
Michael Heim, who heads
Yes.
up the program here at WSU.
And I had the opportunity. That was the first time in really that I saw a large number of young people there. And to me, that is so important because we're here today, but they are the leaders of the future. And seeing them, and right now that I have more of an opportunity to talk to them, they're passionate about doing something. And their passion is not about becoming the president of the university. Their passion is about doing something to help others, to help people, to understand the families of farm workers. That is very, very encouraging to me because in many cases, I was at an event a week ago, and there was not one young person there. And that worries me, because they are the ones that need to see and understand and be curious about the challenges that we face today, to be able to come up with what they think a solution is. And it might take them a long time, but that's what it is. And I've seen here leaders that I can tell you I'm going to see doing good work, very important work in the next few years.
Well, I hope so. Is there anything you want to say that I haven't asked you?
You know, I like I said earlier, I think it is important that we recognized the profession of these men and women, but that we also recognize the sacrifices that the children make. Sometimes we don't think of the workers, let alone of their families. We pay them, in many cases, minimum wage. And if a state doesn't have a minimum wage, they get the federal minimum wage, which is $7.50. How do you support a family like that? Farm workers were excluded from labor rights in the 1930s. And in this day and age, farm workers have labor rights in 2 states, California and New York. We need to change that. And we need the support of people like you, the universities, legislators, and the communities, the consumers, to say this is wrong and we need to change that.
The future of the United Farm Workers, what do you see?
We started the union, as you know, with many challenges. And a lot of people say they're not going to last. We've been here for 62 years. We passed the law in California now that makes it safer for farm workers to vote for union representation. We're organizing H-2A workers in New York, that for the first time we have 2 contracts in 2 different companies in New York. We're working on this state to introduce a legislation to give farm workers labor rights. So we're growing. We're not going to make a difference. And the work that the UFW does is not just for our members. When we introduce legislation to protect workers from heat illness, it is not for the UFW members. It's for every farm worker, which what we did in California and Oregon and Washington, every farm worker and any outdoor worker. So we're not going anywhere. We're here to stay. We're here to fight for our communities. We're here to fight for immigrants, and we're here to fight for farm workers and their families.
Teresa Romero, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much, and si se puede.
Si se puede. Before we close, I want to thank Michael Heim, director of WSU's CAMP program, for coordinating the interview with Teresa Romero. And a big shout out to the video production team of Spencer Tull and Max Caldwell, WSU seniors in the Murrow College of Communication. Go Cougs!
The Chino y Chicano podcast is available on your favorite podcast provider.
You can watch the video version on YouTube, and Converge Media, a leading producer of culturally relevant content in the Pacific Northwest. We'll talk more later.